Your home is not merely a shelter made of stone and mortar. It is an extension of your soul, a silent mirror of your inner frequency. Within these walls, the invisible takes root. You walk across your floors and sleep beneath your roof, unaware that every corner breathes with the energy you have invited, tolerated, or ignored. A home should be a fortress of light, a sacred perimeter where the chaos of the outside world is silenced. Yet, for many, the threshold is breached, not by thieves of flesh and bone, but by subtle spiritual shadows that seep through the cracks of negligence. You wonder why your sleep is troubled, why your thoughts are clouded with unexplained heaviness, or why the air feels thin and drained of peace. It is because the sanctuary has been compromised. We begin this vigil by recognizing that your living space is a living entity. It records every word spoken in anger, every lingering resentment, and every object that carries a vibration contrary to your spirit. To guard the home is to guard the heart. The Watchman sees what the eye ignores. We look past the decor and the architecture to the spiritual anatomy of the dwelling. Before we can invite the divine to dwell within, we must identify the intruders, the 9 spiritual obstacles that turn a sanctuary into a prison. Listen closely, for the walls have ears and the shadows have a voice. This journey is not about interior design. It is about spiritual warfare and the reclamation of your peace. You have allowed things to linger that should have been cast out long ago. You have treated your home like a storage unit for the world's noise, rather than a temple for your spirit's growth. The first step to cleansing is the courage to see the truth of what you have harbored. As we move through these 9 obstacles, ask yourself, is my home a source of power, or is it a drain on my soul? The answer lies in the subtle layers of energy that weave through your daily life. Let us begin the inspection of the unseen.
The first obstacle is the heaviest, for it is often invisible to the untrained eye, the lingering residue of the past. Many dwell in spaces where the history of previous inhabitants remains etched into the very atmosphere. Every house has a memory. If the previous owners lived in a state of perpetual conflict, if the walls absorbed the cries of grief or the silence of despair, that energy does not simply vanish when the keys change hands. It settles into the floorboards like dust. It clings to the curtains like a scent that cannot be washed away. You may have moved into a new chapter of your life, but you are reading it on pages already stained by someone else's ink. This is the spiritual obstacle of unclaimed residue. It manifests as a feeling of being watched, an inexplicable drop in temperature, or a sudden uncharacteristic shift in your mood the moment you step through the front door. You are fighting battles that are not yours to fight, carrying burdens that were left behind by strangers. A home must be scrubbed of its history before it can truly become your own. Without a deliberate clearing, you are merely a guest in a space ruled by ghosts of emotion. Think of the land itself. What stood there before the foundation was poured? The earth remembers the blood, the tears, and the prayers of those who came before. When you ignore this history, you leave the gates of your fortress wide open. This residual energy acts as a spiritual anchor, keeping the inhabitants of the home stuck in cycles of the past. You might find yourself repeating the same mistakes or feeling the same anxieties as those who lived there decades ago. This is not coincidence. It is the environment dictating the frequency of the soul. To be a watchman of your own home, you must learn to command the space, to claim it fully, and to sever the cords of the past that still draw breath in your hallways.
Look around your rooms. Do you truly know the origin of everything you possess? The second spiritual obstacle is the presence of cursed or contaminated objects. We live in an age of mindless consumption, bringing items into our private spheres without questioning their lineage. Some objects are crafted with intentions that are not aligned with peace. An antique mirror, a tribal mask, or even a piece of jewelry passed down through a fractured lineage can act as a portal or an anchor for discordant spirits. These are not mere superstitions, they are the mechanics of spiritual law. An object dedicated to a false ideation or born from an act of violence carries that signature into your home. When you keep such things, you are inadvertently signing a contract with the energy they represent. They act as spiritual dampeners, slowing down the flow of light and creating pockets of stagnation. You may find yourself drawn to these objects, unable to part with them, even as they drain the vitality from your environment. A watchman knows that nothing is neutral. Every item in your home is either a bridge to the higher self or a chain to the lower realms. If it does not serve the light, it serves the shadow. Consider the gifts given in malice or the items purchased during a time of great personal darkness. These things carry the frequency of the moment of their acquisition. When you surround yourself with objects that have no spiritual value, or worse, carry negative charges, you are building a cage for your own spirit. The second obstacle demands a ruthless audit. You must hold every item and ask if it brings life or if it harbors a secret death. If you feel a sense of dread or heaviness when touching an object, do not rationalize it away. Your spirit is warning you. The threshold of your home must be a filter, and anything that carries a curse or contamination must be cast out and neutralized.
We often mistake physical mess for a simple lack of discipline, but in the spiritual realm, clutter is a form of frozen energy. This is the third obstacle, the blockage of the life force. Where there is no movement, there is decay. When you allow broken items, piles of unread papers, and stacks of useless possessions to accumulate, you are creating a graveyard for the spirit. Energy, what the ancients called breath, must circulate freely to maintain the sanctity of a home. Clutter acts like a dam in a river, causing the water to turn stagnant and foul. In these areas of neglect,
spiritual parasites find their breeding grounds. They thrive in the shadows of someday and not yet. This stagnation mirrors the state of your internal world. It is a physical manifestation of indecision and fear of the future. A home filled with the weight of the unnecessary cannot lift its inhabitants to higher states of consciousness. You are literally pinned down by the things you refuse to release. Every broken clock that no longer marks time, every cracked dish, and every garment you haven't touched in years is a leak in your spiritual reservoir. To clear the space is to invite the wind of the Spirit to blow through your life once more. This is not about aesthetics or being a minimalist. It is about clearing the path for divine energy to move. When your home is cluttered, your mind becomes fragmented. You cannot focus on your higher purpose because the noise of your possessions is screaming for your attention. The third obstacle teaches us that the physical and the spiritual are mirrors. If you want clarity in your soul, you must first create clarity in your surroundings. A watchman keeps his quarters lean and ready, for he knows that excess is a burden that slows the spirit's ascent.
The air you breathe within your sanctuary is governed by the frequency of your words. The fourth obstacle is the static of discord. Many do not realize that sound is a creative force. It does not simply dissipate once it leaves the lips. In a home where voices are frequently raised in anger, where sarcasm is the primary language, or where heavy silences are used as weapons, the very walls begin to resonate with these low vibration patterns. This is a spiritual toxicity that creates an invisible fog. You may clean the floors and polish the glass, but if the echo of 1,000 arguments remains trapped in the corners, the house will never feel like a home. It becomes a battlefield where the ego is constantly on guard. This discordant energy acts as a beacon for lower spiritual influences that feed on human suffering. It creates a cycle where peace feels wrong or boring, and the inhabitants subconsciously seek out new conflicts to feed the atmosphere they have inadvertently built. To break this cycle, one must recognize that every word is a seed planted in the soil of the home. A watchman speaks with intent, knowing that a house divided by its own echoes cannot stand as a fortress. Consider the architecture of your conversations. Are they pillars of support or cracks in the foundation? This obstacle of unspoken resentment is perhaps more dangerous than the loudest shout. It is the cold, calculated energy of bitterness that settles into the furniture and the fabrics. When you walk into a room where someone is harboring a secret grudge, you feel it instantly. A heaviness in the chest, a desire to leave. This is the spiritual black mold of the soul. It spreads silently, infecting the thoughts of everyone who dwells there. A home must be a place of radical honesty and high-frequency communication. If the watchman within you is asleep, these pockets of negativity will grow until the joy is choked out of every room. The fifth obstacle is a modern plague, yet its roots are ancient. The digital breach. In the past, a man's home was a closed circuit, a private realm. Today, we have invited 1,000 strangers and 1,000,000 chaotic signals into our bedrooms through the glowing rectangles in our palms. This is a spiritual obstacle of unfiltered ingress. When you consume images of violence, envy, or despair within your sanctuary, you are opening a portal for those energies to take up residence. Your screens are not neutral windows. They are altars to the collective anxiety of the world. By bringing this constant noise into the place where you should be most still, you shatter the spiritual shield of your home. The frequency of the digital world is often jagged and frantic, designed to keep the spirit in a state of low-level fight or flight. This prevents the deep, restorative rest that a sanctified home is supposed to provide. The Watchman knows that a fortress with open gates is no fortress at all. The digital invasion creates a spiritual leaking where your vital energy is drained by things that do not exist in your physical reality. This obstacle manifests as a feeling of being scattered or hollow, even when you are safely behind locked doors. To overcome this, you must re-establish the boundary between the sacred and the profane. There must be areas in your home, the dining table, the bed, the prayer corner, where the digital world is strictly forbidden. This is how you reclaim the territory of your mind. By silencing the artificial frequencies, you allow the natural rhythm of your spirit to return. A home should be a place where the soul can expand, but it cannot expand when it is constantly bombarded by the compressed, distorted energies of the internet. Reclaim your attention, and you will reclaim the peace of your dwelling.
We move now to a more subtle yet potent obstacle: the misplacement of mirrors and reflective gateways. Since ancient times, the Watchmen have known that mirrors are not merely glass and silver, they are spiritual conduits. The sixth obstacle is the improper use of these gateways within the home. A mirror placed directly facing a bed can lead to fragmented sleep and spiritual exhaustion, as it reflects and magnifies the energy being released during the soul's vulnerable state of rest. A mirror facing a door can push away incoming positive energy before it has a chance to settle. When mirrors are cracked, clouded, or positioned to reflect scenes of clutter and decay, they double the presence of that negativity within your sanctuary. They become traps for the light, bending it in ways that create spiritual disorientation. You must treat the reflective surfaces in your home with reverence. They should only reflect what is beautiful, what is clean, and what is filled with light. If a mirror reflects a dark corner or a pile of neglected items, it is actively working to anchor that stagnation into your life. The sixth obstacle reminds us that we are constantly interacting with the unseen double of our physical space. By mindful placement, you turn these mirrors into windows of expansion rather than anchors of depletion. Ensure that your reflections are clear and that your gateways are positioned to invite the flow of grace, not to repel it. A blurred reflection often mirrors a blurred vision of one's own spiritual path. Cleanse your mirrors frequently not just of dust, but of the energetic imprints they have absorbed. The soul of a home is sensitive to the geometry of its arrangement. This sixth obstacle extends into how we position ourselves within the space. Do you sit with your back to the door? Do you sleep in a position of vulnerability? These are not mere matters of comfort. They are expressions of your spiritual readiness. A watchman is never caught unaware. When the furniture in a home is arranged in a way that creates dead zones or sharp, aggressive angles, the spiritual flow, the prana or chi, becomes turbulent. This turbulence creates a sense of unease that you may not be able to name, but your spirit feels it as a constant, low-grade threat. You must smooth the path for the light. Consider the flow of movement from room to room. Is it a graceful journey, or is it an obstacle course? Every time you have to dodge a piece of furniture or navigate a cramped hallway, your energy field contracts. Over time, this contraction becomes your default state. To overcome the sixth obstacle, you must harmonize the physical layout with the spiritual intent. Your home should invite you to breathe deeply, to move freely, and to stand tall. It is a container for your highest potential. When the container is warped or restricted, the spirit within it cannot flourish. Look at your rooms with fresh eyes. Does the space breathe, or is it gasping for air? The watchman's duty is to ensure that the sanctuary supports the inhabitant's strength, providing a clear and unobstructed path for the light to dwell in every corner.
The seventh obstacle lies in the very medium through which we perceive reality, the imbalance of light. A watchman knows that light is not merely a physical phenomenon, but a spiritual nutrient. A home that is perpetually shrouded in artificial darkness, where heavy curtains are never drawn and the sun's purifying rays are forbidden to enter, becomes a breeding ground for melancholy and low-level spiritual entities. These shadow pockets are where the energy of the home begins to rot. Sunlight is the natural enemy of spiritual stagnation. It vibrates at a frequency that dissolves the gray veils of lethargy. If you deny your home this celestial infusion, you are effectively starving your sanctuary. Conversely, the obstacle also manifests in the form of harsh, artificial brilliance. The cold, flickering blue light of modern bulbs is a jagged frequency that severs the connection to the natural rhythms of the soul. To master the seventh obstacle, you must treat light as a sacred guest. A home that is too dark fosters secrecy and depression, while a home that is never allowed to embrace the soft, healing shadows of the evening becomes a place of nervous exhaustion. There is a sacred twilight that must be maintained, a harmony between the active energy of the day and the restorative mystery of the night. If your rooms feel oppressive, look to your windows. Are they dirty, blocking the clarity of the world? Are they blocked by the ghosts of dead plants or forgotten objects? When you clear the path for natural light, you are not just illuminating a room, you are inviting the eye of the divine to watch over your life. A watchman ensures that no corner is left in perpetual shadow, for it is in the darkness that the seeds of doubt are most easily planted. Beyond the light of the sun, we must consider the elemental void. This is the deeper layer of the seventh obstacle. A home that is disconnected from the living elements, earth, air, fire, and water, becomes a sterile container rather than a living womb for the spirit. We have built boxes of synthetic materials, sealing ourselves off from the very forces that ground us. When the air in your home is recycled and stale, your thoughts become recycled and stale. When there is no living greenery to transmute the energy, the atmosphere becomes spiritually thin. The watchman observes that a sanctuary must breathe. To overcome this obstacle, you must reintroduce the primordial witnesses. A single flame, the presence of living soil, the movement of fresh air, and the purity of water are not decorations, they are spiritual anchors. They remind the space of its connection to the vast, living cosmos. Without these, the home remains a hollow shell, vulnerable to the cold winds of the void. You must audit the elemental balance of your rooms. Is there a place where the fire of inspiration can burn? Is there a place where the water of emotion can flow and be cleansed? If your environment is purely industrial and artificial, your spirit will slowly become mechanical. Reclaiming the elements is reclaiming your humanity. Do not allow your home to become a laboratory of the mundane. Keep the ancient fires of the spirit burning in every chamber. We come now to the eighth obstacle, one of the most vital points of failure in the spiritual defense of the home, the unguarded threshold. Every door and every window is a mouth. If these portals are not governed by intent, they swallow whatever wanders by in the spiritual atmosphere. Many people treat their front door as a simple piece of wood and metal, failing to realize it is the primary filter for their entire life. The eighth obstacle is the casual entry, allowing people, objects, and energies to cross your threshold without a spiritual password. Your home is a body, and the door is its mouth. If you would not eat poison, why would you allow a person filled with malice or a guest carrying a heavy cloud of chaos to walk freely into your inner sanctum? This obstacle manifests as a lack of boundaries. You may feel a leak in your domestic peace shortly after certain visitors leave, or after bringing in items from places of high turmoil. This is because the threshold was not sealed with intent. A watchman knows that he is the gatekeeper. To overcome this, you must sanctify the entrance. It must be a clear signal to all who enter. Here, only the light is welcome. All that is discordant must be left at the gate. When you fail to guard the threshold, you find that your home no longer feels like yours. It feels like a public square, exhausted by the footprints of 1,000 wandering thoughts.
You must reclaim the power of the no. Not every guest deserves the sanctuary of your hearth, and not every influence has the right to breathe your air.
The defense of the threshold extends beyond the physical door. It is the perimeter of the will. The eighth obstacle often takes hold when the inhabitant of the home is spiritually passive. If you do not claim the space, something else will. This is the law of the spiritual vacuum. To guard your home, you must walk your perimeter. You must consciously extend your energy to the very corners of your property. This is the Watchman's walk. When you are indifferent to the boundaries of your home, the spiritual protection thins out, leaving holes in the veil. These holes are exploited by the collective anxieties of the neighborhood or the lingering echoes of the street. You must establish a rhythm of sealing. This means cleaning your doorways with more than just soap. It means cleaning them with the intention of purification. It means speaking a word of protection over your windows. It means being mindful of what you bring home from your day in the world. Before you enter, pause. Shake off the dust of the marketplace. Do not bring the shadows of your workplace or the anger of the traffic into the temple you have built. The eighth obstacle is defeated when the inhabitant becomes the living seal of the house. You are the governor of this domain. When you stand at your door, you must stand with the authority of one who knows that his home is a sovereign nation of the spirit. Let nothing cross that line that does not honor the peace you have cultivated.
The ninth and final obstacle is perhaps the most profound: the absence of an altar. In the ancient world, every home had a heart, a sacred center, a hearth or a small altar where the divine was acknowledged. Today, our homes are built around the television or the kitchen island, centered on consumption rather than communion. The ninth obstacle is a directionless dwelling. When a home has no dedicated space for stillness, prayer, or connection to the higher realms, the energy has no North Star. It wanders aimlessly, becoming susceptible to every passing whim of the ego. Without a sacred anchor, your home is merely a place where you store your body between shifts of work. It lacks a spiritual lungs to breathe in the grace of the universe. This void creates a subtle sense of homelessness even while you are sitting in your own living room. You feel a persistent spiritual hunger that no amount of renovation or luxury can satisfy. The Watchman knows that a house without a dedicated space for the spirit is a house that is perpetually open to the elements of the astral world. You have ignored the most important inhabitant of your home, your own divine essence. To overcome this final obstacle, you must reclaim a corner, a shelf, or a room and dedicate it to the unseen. It does not require elaborate ritual, but it requires a vow of presence. This is the point from which all protection flows. When you establish a sacred center, you are telling the universe, this ground is claimed. This house has a master. The creation of this sacred center acts as a spiritual furnace for the entire home.
It is here that you burn away the impurities collected throughout the day. The ninth obstacle is defeated not by what you do, but by the consistency of your devotion. When you neglect the spiritual heart of your home, the fire goes out, and the cold of the world begins to seep back in through the walls. This is why many feel a sense of dread when they are alone in their own houses. They are sensing the vacuum where a presence should be. A watchman does not allow the fire to die. Your intent is the fuel. By spending even 5 minutes in silence in your dedicated space, you are reweaving the protective fabric of your entire dwelling. Consider what you have placed at the center of your life. If your home revolves around your anxieties, your bills, or your digital distractions, those are the gods you are worshiping. The ninth obstacle is a call to realignment. You must shift the throne. Place your peace, your gratitude, and your connection to the infinite at the center. When the center is strong, the perimeter is secure. A home with a vibrant spiritual heart becomes a lighthouse in a dark neighborhood. It begins to affect the very street it stands on, radiating a frequency of order and calm that shields not only you, but those nearby. You are not just building a house, you are anchoring a piece of heaven on earth. This is the ultimate duty of the Watchman, to be the guardian of the flame.
Now that the 9 obstacles have been named, the work of the Watchman begins in earnest. Knowledge without action is merely a burden. To cleanse your sanctuary, you must move through your home with the authority of a sovereign. Start by opening the windows to let the breath of life flush out the stagnant echoes. Use the elements, the smoke of sacred herbs, the vibration of a bell, or the purity of salt to disrupt the patterns of the past. Walk through every room and speak the truth aloud. I reclaim this space. I sever the cords of the past. I close the portals of the shadow. Do not be timid. The energy of your home responds to the strength of your will. If you are uncertain, the obstacles will remain. If you are resolute, they must flee. This great clearing is not a one-time event, but a way of life. Just as you wash your body, you must wash your atmosphere. Pay attention to the corners, the closets, and the spaces under the bed, the places where the dust of the spirit loves to gather. As you remove the physical clutter, feel the corresponding weight lifting from your soul. As you cleanse the mirrors, feel your inner vision becoming clear. As you guard the door, feel your own boundaries becoming firm. You are performing a high alchemy, turning a common dwelling into a fortress of the spirit. The watchman does not sleep on his watch. He is ever vigilant, noticing the first sign of a returning shadow and meeting it at the gate with the light of awareness.
Your journey through the 9 obstacles has brought you to a moment of choice. Your home is now more than a building. It is a living testament to your spiritual journey. Remember, the world outside may be filled with chaos, uncertainty, and darkness, but within these walls, you are the law. You are the filter. You are the light. A sanctified home is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and those you love. It is a place where the soul can finally take off its armor and be replenished. When you walk through your rooms, do so with a heart of gratitude, for you have turned a prison into a palace, a desert into a garden. As the sun sets and the shadows lengthen, stand at the heart of your home and feel the silence. It is no longer the heavy silence of the void, but the pregnant silence of peace. The 9 obstacles have been dismantled, and in their place, a bridge has been built to the higher realms. You are now the true watchman of your domain. Sleep now in the shadow of the divine, knowing that your perimeter is secure, your threshold is guarded, and your spirit is home. The vigil continues, but you no longer watch in fear, you watch in power. Let your home be your sanctuary, your laboratory, and your temple. For as it is within your walls, so it shall be within your soul. The watchman rests, for the light has won the day.